Okay, we'll call the Planning Commission meeting of June 20, 2022 to order at 7:04 PM. And we have in attendance Nikki Cribb, Ken Carter, Tammy Brennan, and Bill Irwin. And then we have John West operating the audio visuals for us. And we have a guest, Emily Kloft, Northwest Regional Planning Commission. And you two gentlemen. Okay. Right. Great. Welcome. First thing is adjustments to the agenda. And the question is, are you okay, Emily, if we do hold our hearing on the Gates Vincent boundary line adjustment? Okay, great. No. All right. And are there any adjustments to the agenda then? Seems like kind of okay order. All right. And then we'll introduce ourselves. And don't forget the buttons. Yep.
Ken Carter.
Nikki Cribb. Tammy Brennan.
Thank you. Those are the members of the Planning Commission. And we are now ready for your hearing. Do you have anyone coming to speak for you, or are you speaking for yourselves? I guess given that Brenda typically would do that, that's true. She's not here.
We had a brief description from Brenda that either there was a building that was built on another person's lot. Okay. I don't really know more than that, really. You know, okay.
Yeah, come on up. It would make sense, given that you're now testifying, if you didn't mind introducing yourselves again.
All right, I'm Lindsay Gates.
Great. Okay. And did Brenda get on? Brenda, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you okay.
Great, thanks. So would you like to make some introductory comments about this? Or should we just ask the Gates to do that?
Are you guys the applicants or?
From what you were saying, yeah,
Right, well, she's, Tammy said we got an application from.
Brenda, is there anything that you wanted to? Oh, she's okay. So let's just, yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's where I disagree. I mean, the adjustment line is only 3 people. I, when did this all come about? you know? Yeah. I'm like,
Well, the bylaws have been around for ever. The most recent edition, March 2017. And um,
how do we get notified about all these bylaws and stuff?
If you're, and they're here in the office, right? I mean, you can come. But I don't think that probably was, I don't think we changed any of that stuff about the abutters or anything in that last revision, so it's probably been around as long as it's been bylaws, but I don't. Sorry, I mean, obviously, it seems kind of ridiculous for this, that you need to notify all 18 people, but there's no like, you can't just pick and choose, they're coming in. We can't predict anything that's gonna happen, so I think that's probably why it just says all abutters need to be notified, so. Typically, there probably isn't 18 butters.
But there's only 3 that actually abut that lane.
Who are these other 15 people then? Who are
They
these-
abut our land, but
The
it's
whole
all.
farm,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole farm.
but
Is that
where
right?
this is, the adjustment is, there's 3 people.
And is this right down here on the, behind
Yeah.
the gas station?
And the adjustment actually is I grew up there in the 50s. And where we always thought the line was right down straight.
Yeah.
When we did the survey and everything and got it surveyed, it went like this. And the corner of our barn, a foot off. And our neighbor decided to push stuff over onto our land after we got it. So we went over and talked to him, said, hey, pin's right here, and the pin's over here. And I agree, it used to be, we all thought it was here,
Straight down. through.
straight down through. So we said, well, let's get Michael Jarvis. And called Michael and said, can we just swing it? No land will be exchanged. No watershed's gonna be hurting. We're just gonna swing the land and put it back where I've always known the property line be since 1950,
Which straightens it out.
which straightens it out.
Reasonable, yeah.
I mean, it's nothing that,
are they open to doing that?
yeah, oh yeah, we've done it. We've done it.
Well, it's not done until it's
Wow.
actually
Well, it's
on
been
paper and in the town hall.
It's all staked out and everything.
Right. Well, that's good. But what I meant was they're open to making this change without any sort of,
Yeah,
And-
He was the one.
he
to
was
come
supposed to be here tonight.
right,
Because I don't know where he is, but
Right.
he's all for this.
good. Okay.
Because
So-
what happens is when we straighten that out like this, that squares up right
Right.
down through his property to give him, the straight part of it, so it doesn't come on an angle, because when it comes on an angle, it goes right up toward the gas station. We straighten it out and it gives him a perfectly square, because
Yeah.
there used to be an old building down in there.
This is a house
Blacksmith
right
shop.
next to the Jolly. This is the house, is that the property?
Yes,
And you're
where the next
line's
farm.
the next one over? Yeah. Yeah. So those are the 2 properties. You said there was a third one that
Well,
would be affected, or?
the Jollies.
The Jollies.
his, And us. Yeah. I mean, it's nothing like we adjusted anything that I've always known since I was a kid back in the 50s. Until because we had problems with neighbors and my nephew and I said, we're gonna get the farm surveyed. It costs us over $10,000 to get it surveyed. Because if we sell it, We want to know exactly where the property lines are.
Well, money.
So I guess there's two issues here. The first is problem in that the Vincents aren't here. And I assume that they need to demonstrate to us their satisfaction to this boundary line adjustment. I mean, we've got a drawing and you've said that they are in agreement with it, but we need
Because
to have some sort of
That
document.
corner, they thought, of course, they see a orange pin down on an old fence post, and that's where it went straight. So they thought that was the boundary line, so they pushed all their stuff, and everything down onto it. I went over and said, whoa, wait a minute. This comes here.
Right.
And where the corner is over here is no good for them. Because it's in an old
Foundation here.
foundation and stuff.
Right.
So by moving it down there, it gives them more active, usable land.
Right.
They already got that little section filled in with the stuff, or,
Yeah.
so now that old foundation is kind of, that's the corner on the other side, it looks like, or?
Yes, that's down.
Within,
down-
within a foot.
Okay, yeah, I mean, on the line here, it looks like it just goes right, kind of wraps right around that old foundation, so.
So. Yeah, okay.
Now, He paid the survey.
Yeah, and that's the second issue, and we cannot do anything about that. The bylaws are clear. It says that written notification to the applicant and to owners of all properties adjoining the property subject to subdivision or development without regard to public rights of way, they are to get public notice. So while it is true that this particular line only affects a few properties, the fact that it is your property that is being adjusted, it is the entirety of your property that defines who gets notice. So you have to, unfortunately, account for the notice being given to all of those. How many did you say? 18 properties. No, that's what yes, it says that here. That's what I read. But so that's the second issue. Unfortunately, you do have to, between the two parties, you can negotiate how you do that. Maybe you split it. Sounds like you're splitting other things too. But we can't really change the public notice requirements just because they're in this particular
Well, who
case.
has to notify them? Us? Do we have that? What's that gonna cost us?
Yeah, that's, I don't see.
But I think that is just, that is.
Maybe we're talking to Brenda about the boundary line adjustments, the same as a subdivision, because boundary line adjustments are often just two properties, just, you know, like you're doing here, so seems.
That's what Michael Jarvis told us that it would be.
Yeah.
Just an adjustment.
Right, that's what you're applying for, is a boundary line adjustment, so it's different than an actual, it's different than a subdivision. You're not creating a new lot, you're just creating a new line, so.
Just straighten it out along.
Yeah.
Yeah, no land is being exchanged.
Yeah, there's not another lot being created, it's just, Brenda, are you there?
Yep. I'm on. Tammy and I did those calculations very carefully.
Yeah, that was good, you had the numbers there.
And the way it's defined by bylaws is exactly what you said, Ken. It's noted as a fee in the zoning fees.
Yeah.
And,
I don't think that's the argument, it's the question of notifying all the abutters and the cost
Oh.
of that.
we actually had that discussion over a month ago, and you were, as a board, you were quite adamant that everybody has to be notified.
I didn't realize there was 18 of them, and most of them aren't anywhere near this.
I did mention that we had a high number of abutters because property, from the gate standpoint, is adjoining a lot of property holders in and across that whole bottom and up Main Street and down.
Does a boundary line adjustment qualify as a subdivision, or?
Well, specifically in the listing fees, it does not separate those out. Tammy and I looked at that carefully, and she said there's two people who are involved, so it was two boundary line adjustment fees, plus all the mailing, and that's where we got the figure from.
So,
Pretty
you know, the other thing to consider is what do we do at other properties? Let's say we have a property that is elsewhere and it equally is a single boundary line adjustment for a limited part of the entire properties. Do we still, in that case, where there may be less than 18 abutters, notify every abutter? Obviously, the concern that we're all hearing is that there's 18 different people and that multiplies the fee. But if it was bigger properties and only 3 for all of the surrounding properties, we would still make the same decision, which is that you would notify all of the abutters to the property, not just the abutters on the property line that's being adjusted. You know, you have to be fair in each of the decisions that you make, despite the fact that in some cases, the effect of the decision could be difficult on the parties because of the specific circumstances of it. You know, if we apply a rule here that we're only going to charge for abutters to this property line that's being adjusted, and then the next property that we do, we decide, okay, we're going to actually charge for all of the abutters because in that case, it's only 3 or 4 or 5, not 18. We're making a decision that is biased. We're making a decision that is biased towards a particular hardship, which is nice to do, but it's not fair.
Well, I think that should be totally changed and brought into the bylaws that it only concerns the people that are bordering that land. Right? Because I border the rest of the farm on the other side of the brook. Brenda Gagne borders it. So, I mean, that has, where this line is has,
Yeah, I know.
has something to do with me because I own part of the farm, but it has nothing to do with me where my house is.
Agree, and
So,
it seems like that could be something that could get changed for boundary line adjustments specifically, if you're really typically you're just dealing with two people on a boundary line adjustment, you know.
correct.
Fortunately, that's not the way it reads right now, it sounds like.
So let me ask you a question. If we do this, okay, and then you guys go and change the bylaws, are you going to reimburse us?
First of all, we don't change the bylaws. The town changes the bylaws. There's a vote at the town meeting on changes to the bylaws. The bylaws are changed in a public process that takes place over generally many months, where each chapter of the bylaws is reviewed and there are questions about all of the different elements of it. And parts are changed and parts are left unchanged. So it's not us guys, it's a collection of public interests. And the second part is no, we would not. It's not that you change and then retroactively correct anything that was affected by the change. The change occurs, and from that point on, the way it's been changed is how the laws are applied. So it happens to people in some circumstances that they feel, frankly, hurt by the process. The other option to you, frankly, is you could live with this and not make this boundary line adjustment. And in that case, you save yourself the money and you work with your neighbor in a cooperative manner to see if you can deal with the circumstances of the way he's living there and you're living there. That's another option where you don't have to have all of these costs for the purpose of moving this boundary line.
See,
See, there's 4 relatives. Actually, there's 2 that own the farm. And we have to pay for them too.
Yeah, I understand it seems like it's a burden to you in this particular case. And in this particular case, it genuinely is because of the specific circumstances of so many abutters to your particular property. You know, if you had your property surrounded by one property owner entirely, then it would be very easy on you. You're only notifying that one abutter. But the way that your property is situated in the middle of the town with so many other property owners abutting it, any effect to your property is to be noticed to all of the abutters to that property, despite the fact that they're, in the particular case here, not really impacted by it. I mean, we understand the circumstances here. We understand that this is a boundary line adjustment that's not changing the amount of land they have or you have. And we understand that it is a particular financial burden for all of these notices. But we've also heard that the select board has determined that in this case, it should be all of the property owners that are to be given the notice, which is as the bylaws describe it, despite the fact that it is a particularly unpleasant burden for you and the Vincents if you're splitting the costs of that. And I'm sorry that that is the case, and we're not going to change the bylaws tonight. It's a process that takes time.
But what is that process of changing the bylaws? Because if you're not in a hurry to do this, maybe there's a way of
Right.
wait, change the bylaws and then it wouldn't, because it's a common, I mean, I think we could all agree from a common sense perspective.
So the
We can wait. I mean, the neighbor that we're working with is willing to, he's already wanted that, you know, so.
Sure. I mean, you know, if you guys can live to the interests of what you want to do, and then there's a change in the bylaws so that we can make it more equitable for all who are doing boundary line adjustments as opposed to subdivisions, then that is possible. What the timeline is that there's no specific timeline for revising bylaws. What we've done historically, and Ken can help me, given his longer term on the commission, is that we are required to revise the town plan. And whenever we revise the town plan, it's useful to revise the bylaws, because the bylaws are the regulations that make the town plan work.
I think amending the bylaws is kind of propose it to the select board, and typically they say, well, yeah, we're okay with that, but town should vote on it. It's either November or March, town meeting.
Can we appeal this and bring it to the select board?
I think that that would be your right to try that, and we're glad to hear that. If that was the decision the select board would like to.
I mean, it's hurting us, but what happens is the next guy down the road
Right.
that ends up with the same problem we got.
Well, it's been a long time, and this is the first time I've actually heard it, so it's thankfully rare.
What happened to
Yeah.
farm village.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have a big property and it's surrounded by lots of little properties.
Usually it is more like 2 or 3 or 4 people outside.
That's what costs us that much money to have a survey. Michael had to go into every one.
Yeah, yeah. And, I don't, we can tell you tonight that Michael Jarvis does good work with surveys. And, if everything was done in accordance with the notices, we could make a ruling pretty quickly on this. So it's not like this is a difficult process. What's difficult is that you're facing costs that are exorbitant for the amount of change that's being asked here.
And I know the neighbor, he's gonna flip when he finds out.
Yeah, I can understand that. I wouldn't like it either. But the way we try to make decisions here is not on the basis of people, it's on the basis of the land and how the land is going to have a history beyond all of us. So as you turn it over to heirs, as they turn their property over to heirs, we want everybody to feel like that it was done correctly and fairly. Even though in this particular case, it's a very simple thing that you're asking to get done. Usually they're more complicated and it's just the costs of it. It's the costs overwhelm the amount of work that's being asked for here.
You giving them that little sliver along the north edge just to keep the property
We're,
value
the
the same?
the
or-
way it is the line goes like this. It goes up toward the back of the store and it comes in front of our barn.
That's-
We are taking and straightening that out. So they're gonna get some land here. We're gonna get the land here to straighten that. So we're getting the same amount of land.
Yeah, 'cause I see on the other line there from
Yeah,
108
yeah, I-
down, there's a little tiny little sliver there, which must be just to keep the property acreage the same.
Yeah. 'cause
Coming
you
down the
can- you can
driveway.
See,
This line here, this is the one from the
Yeah.
stores here.
right,
Coming
so
down
you
the
can
driveway.
see right there where the line is just straightening out and each person's gonna get a little triangle.
Yep.
Straightening that line out.
Yeah, this is an easy decision in the actual boundary line adjustment.
And-
so.
And both parties agree to it. So it isn't like we're fighting another party to try to do this.
And I
Yeah.
pretty much guarantee that everyone you notify is gonna say, well, what's the big deal? No problem,
Yeah, they're gonna say, well,
No one's gonna
what
come
does
in
it
and.
concern us?
Right.
That's what they're gonna say. So if that's what they're gonna say, why are we having to pay that?
Well, unfortunately, every time that we have any kind of decision hearing here, we notify all the abutters, and there may be 6 or 7, and 4 or 5 don't care a hoot. It's only one or two that do. And that's just the way it is that some people are abutters and they hear about their neighbor making a change and they're very interested. Other parties are totally uninterested. In your case, because it's such a small change that affects such a little area, you have essentially everyone that has no interest in it. But that's just the way the,
So you're telling me that if somebody upstreet that isn't nowhere near that piece of land says, I don't like that idea, they can stop us?
No.
they can testify as to why they don't like it, and we could listen to their, what they want to say. And it could affect us one way or the other. We don't know what they're obviously likely to say, but that's why all abutters to the property are notified, is so that everyone that has any potential can be aware of it.
Nobody else has any potential to that.
I understand that. Did you have some?
Somebody down.
Right, it has to be an abutter.
Has to be somebody touching your property.
Yeah, we know. that.
Right,
Yeah,
but
we
what
know
I'm
that.
saying is, up where Barb, our Aunt Barb lives, okay, our land goes way up into there. So anybody that's on Main Street that's up through there is abutting the back of our land. Or, on Main Street, but they have nothing to do with where we're changing the line.
We understand that. We understand that this is a very localized issue, but we also are trying to apply the bylaws equally to everyone that comes and sits before us.
So can you tell me when the bylaws were changed?
2017 is the date of the last. And we're,
I don't think this.
This wasn't changed. though.
Right, we
This
didn't-
No,
they didn't
this is-
find the-
yeah.
The notification process wasn't changed in 2017, so that was probably original. Like when the property gets subdivided, which apparently includes a boundary line adjustment, all abutters have to be notified. That's been in the bylaws, I think, from the beginning.
it wouldn't surprise me that this notification of all abutting property owners is many decades old. It could be centuries.
Okay, let me ask you another question. If the land on the other side of us, we own it, but has a different deed to it, does that make a difference? Because our farm that my grandparents bought, tell me if I'm wrong, they bought the farm and then they bought a piece of land, then they bought a piece of land, and they bought a piece of land. So each one of those pieces of land has its own deed.
Yeah, my understanding is that that's probably when they bought those, they were all incorporated into one new property.
Still have separate deeds.
Still have separate deeds.
So you may be able to look at this from a perspective of the deeded property closest to this defines the abutters.
Law this one is on. If that really is a separate deed, then you would only need to notify the abutters to that piece of property that this is on.
Right.
So could we table this for the time being?
Oh,
and let us check
absolutely.
into this
Actually,
stuff?
It would not be fair without the Vincents here too, because this is a
They were
joint,
supposed to be here.
unless you had some sort of signed document from them saying that they were.
He probably forgot.
Yeah, and that's okay. And, this is a process that's meant to be really patient and fair. So, we're glad to hear this again next month if you wanted to look at that language of the deeds that you have there. If that can relax some of the numbers of the abutters, that makes a lot of sense.
Because the piece of land that I own.
Yeah.
Which is across the brook that abuts that, had its own deed. Okay, the piece of land that Brenda Gagne had its own deed. And I believe the Big Hill had its own deed because they bought that after.
No, because the Mod Wanzer barn that we're talking about, that was bought after we bought the main barn,
Oh, okay.
43. So that's for the separate deed, the Mod Wanzer barn
From the original barn.
from the original.
Okay, so that would take if that's the case, that would take everybody north of that out of the equation.
That sounds like
Yeah.
a good approach. I think you could easily come to the town hall,
Look them up.
look it up.
Now, Michael, on this map here, he has, I think the farm has kind of one big piece of property here. But you're sure that those are all separate
Yes.
separate
they were all
lots on
separate.
there?
He had it because that's what it was. He had to go around and mark everybody's.
Yeah, well, if those are all separate lots, then
You could sell them as separate pieces of property without having to do subdivision. That's the key. And that's why it's always all of the abutters, is that everybody, even people some doors down, could be affected by some change, not this one, but some change because of other changes that occur over the course of time. That's why we have to try to use the same rules every time we hear a case.
I think we ought to go back, do a little bit more homework here.
Yeah, no, they would,
Do it a little bit.
and then a lot of people do that. You know, they come, they talk about the issues and we explain what the bylaws say and what we have as a right to.
Okay,
I
so
think some of that wording
you-
should be changed.
can you put us on the agenda for next month?
Sure. I'm the one who makes the agenda, so I'd be glad to continue this Gates Vincent Bound line adjustment hearing.
Our neighbor up here with.
Yeah, that'd be great.
that would be helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was supposed to come, like I said, he probably forgot.
because he talked to me when I was down there. He says, we're on for the 20th, right? And I said, "Yeah."
Well, so just to let you know,
Forget sometimes.
we don't know the date of the next meeting yet. We're going to vote on that later. But the first Monday, which is when we normally meet,
Mhm.
is actually 4th of July. So we won't be meeting then. So it'll either be the second, third, fourth. Yeah, we've done it it's harder with the,
Oh, Jamie.
I know, understand, but we will discuss it and vote, okay? Yeah. That's item 9 on the agenda.
Thought this was gonna be a lot easier, but thanks for coming in. And
Well,
this part is easy. I mean,
that's why, that's what I told my nephew. I said, we gotta come in and find out what the heck's going on. What the hell is all this 18, but, Find out what's going on. So I thank you for letting us come in.
Well, you're very
pick your
welcome.
Brain and,
getting your blood pressure up a little.
Great.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we left a place here on the agenda for public comment. Is there any public comment? Is there only one person on the call? Okay. So now we are for you. Thank you for your patience with that. I didn't realize it would take.
Insights from your seat in the back there? You care to share with us?
I mean, okay, all right, okay. Yeah, I mean, certainly if you wanted to change your zoning bylaw, some municipalities, for example, treat a bylaw adjustment as an administrative process rather than a process requiring hearing review. But I think you're correct in needing to apply the bylaw equally to everyone, regardless of the impacts of that.
So you're saying we could make bylaw changes, for example, one at a time without having to have the entire bylaws changed?
Yeah, I mean, you still have to go through the process, and that if you can make a bylaw change through what you need to have a hearing process with the planning commission and the select board, and you can have the select board vote on it. It's just some municipalities have a tradition or a policy that all bylaw changes go to the voters, and that obviously usually means you like to collect a few bylaw
Yeah.
changes together because that's more complicated
Yeah.
and expensive.
Right, right. And that's one of the things that we would like to talk to you about
Mhm.
here tonight is that you've heard that our town plan is due to a 7-year renewal
Yes.
by 2022.
Well, you adopted right in 2018.
I'm sorry, I must have the wrong one here.
So you should be good until, it's not 8 years, 2026. would
Okay,
be-
good.
yeah, so you've
But
got
we,
some time.
we also recognize that there's a number of other changes that are occurring outside of Bakersfield that affect our town plan and would be appropriate. And then it would also, as described during the meeting here, be likely that with a change in the town plan, that the bylaws would be next after that.
Yeah. That have your town plan adoption and then do bylaws, that's pretty frequent. That way you can have all of your supporting language for your bylaw amendments in your town plan, which is a really good practice. So this is we call them our enhanced consultations, and we do them now since we've moved to, it used to be 5 years for a town plan, now it's 8. So we've moved to doing twice in 8 years, and that's under our state HCCD contract. And they're part of the way that we, one, just get a check-in with all of the municipalities about where you're at, how we can assist, what's going on, and also how we show for when you get your plan regionally approved in your confirmation of planning process, that we show that every municipality is engaged in implementing their town plan, which is one of those requirements for that regional status. So tonight I'm going to kind of go through your current plan, and you'll get this document all filled out from our meeting, and I'll email it to you afterwards with the notes that we talked about of the plan, its strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities, and then talk a little bit about what's going on in the RPC, and then ask you guys a little bit. I mean, I know some of the stuff that's going on in the town, but get a good sense of everything that's going on. So like I said, your plan was adopted in 2018, which means you've got a little bit of time before an update in 2026. You've got a few years before, usually a year or two in advance, depending on how long big of an update you want to do. You want to start thinking about it, especially if you end up looking for funding, like a municipal planning grant to do your update, then you want to really be thinking 2 or even 3 years out from your plan being expired, so that you have enough time to get the grant in, do your update. So I think your plan is really strong overall. It has a really great transportation section that includes bicycle and pedestrian needs. You have a really good economic development section of the plan as well, and a really strong all hazards resiliency chapter. There are a few areas that you'll definitely want to include in your next plan update. You don't have discussion of ADUs, multi-unit housing, or mobile homes in your affordable housing section. And all of those are important to overall affordable housing choice. And also you're missing information and goals about adult education opportunities, which is one of the included in the statewide education goal. And then there's a few opportunities. So these are things that aren't necessarily like missing from your plan, but are opportunities to expand. Oftentimes a good project for the planning commission is if you can identify specific scenic resources or fragile areas that can strengthen the plan, and it helps more clearly signal where development is inappropriate, which is particularly important if you're trying to use your plan to discuss like an Act 250 or Section 248 case. Including some more information about outdoor recreation and also some other ways of supporting local agriculture, like diversification or accessory on-farm businesses, are some ways that you can add some information there. And then many municipalities have been changing their implementation chapters to include a table. So yours is in pretty good shape, but having that table can really facilitate having specific long, medium, and long-term goals, and short, medium, and long-term goals, and being able to kind of review it on a regular basis. So those are some recommendations we would have. But overall, like I said, I think your plan is in pretty good shape. You don't really have any missing elements since your last plan update as of this point. You guys have an enhanced energy plan. You've met the new state forest fragmentation standards that came around in 2016, 2017. So that's all great. So that's kind of on your plan. I know it's a long ways off, but have you given any thought to your plan update and kind of what level of plan update you might want to do?
Yeah, I think that, first we want to just make sure. I think first we want to make sure that we keep on schedule.
Mhm.
Second, we would want to take advantage of grant for
Mhm.
pay of, for example, as we have previously, Northwest Regional Planning Commission planner to
Yeah.
assist us. And third, that we would want to do some things to try to make sure that all due diligence is made to get people to participate.
Mhm.
And that we hear from them what they like, don't like, or would like to change. Sadly, we hear from some people that they didn't know the process, didn't know when things were changing, and didn't have an opportunity to participate in that change, despite the fact that we do everything we can.
Yeah.
And, you know, you work through the winter, you come in here and it's snowing and you understand why people don't show up to hear. But you also, you have beautiful days and they don't show up either because it's so nice out. They want to go out and do other things. So if there's anything that we could do to really get people engaged, and I don't know if there's anything new that can be done, but we've tried a number of things. You know, we go through the various social and social media outlets as well as the normal notice through the papers and whatnot, and it still results in.
Yeah, that's something where if you have funding, then you can do often like the way we're moving with communities is to go to people where they are rather than trying to get people to go to events or like, so for example, we're doing a South Hero town plan update right now that's MPG funded. And so the planning commission is going to their farmers market to table. And then they're also hosting kind of like there's several different community groups that are doing projects there right now. They're hosting a community event with like live music and cheese and I think like wine tasting even from one of their local vineyards that they have over there. And on a smaller scale, you can do like, this was our plan for Fairfield. Didn't happen because of COVID, but that's, you know, unavoidable. But like we had plans to go have events at the library, have events at the local diner. So that's something that if there's a budget to do it, you can do. And that if you haven't done a really big public engagement town plan in a while, it's a good step because oftentimes, you know, you can't do that every town plan cycle, but you can try to get it once every couple so that people are really involved.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that is true is that a lot of people don't even know what's in the plan.
Mhm.
So they don't know what to support or what they feel. So it would be really neat to find a way to get it out to people and say, hey, and unfortunately, people don't have an interest in reading stuff that
And
It's
they don't know what's in the plan until it kind of affects them, and then it's usually they're mad about it, so. And typically that's more involved with the bylaws with us, because
Mhm.
had people come in and kind of air their grievances about the bylaws, like those guys tonight were kind of. Yeah, there's those kind of things that happen.
How about
So as far as getting the public involved, it's so hard. I think you have to be creative, and I think if we can start thinking now about events and things that are happening where we can start presenting information, I don't think any time is too soon. I know we're not doing 4th of July thing this year in the same way we have in the past, but I would wonder what events there are, but it just seems like if there's something, if it's happening at school or something around the cultural co-op, we almost have to have materials available that are really easy to digest so that people, I mean, you give someone that plan and they're just gonna, not, but if we had some sort of bite-size, information, and I don't know how practical that is, because that's.
Yeah, a lot of people prefer videos now. So if we were able to make a YouTube channel that described the town plan really simply, like, each chapter is this and this and this and this, we get, and it make each chapter a 2-minute summary. And then maybe that would interest them in reading it. I don't know, but yeah.
Bill, you could dress up as a superhero and tell people.
I'm not sure how we got me dressing up as anything. but-
I propose.
I'm gonna lose this vote.
We have a town YouTube channel, the link's on the homepage, so all we need to do is video.
Right. Yeah,
About 15 minutes.
I think it's actually quite possible for us to try to bring this written document to life by simply describing what's in each chapter. And then if you show people something interesting, or you talk about something interesting in each chapter, then they go and they read that chapter, and then maybe they go and read another chapter. And then hopefully, I think the other really good idea that you shared with us and you have confirmed is to take it out to them as opposed to try to get them in here. So going to the school is probably the best venue here. It seems to be the one that draws the most people because we don't have a farmer's market really. And we don't have a lot of other town outings.
Concert here. I saw a sign for a concert. Sign right out here says June 25th. Might get a big turnout June 25th or nothing. Yeah, that sounds fun and maybe a little too early for the town plan. Bill's in his cape and stuff. The town plan.
But maybe next year.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I wrote down here, food, wine. Wine and cheese. Yeah.
It's really,
Yeah, I think it's both, but some are more obvious than others.
Sorry.
yeah, so like all of those types of things. And then if you want to make that part specifically of your plan update and get some funding to do, to hire the RPC or someone else to do that work. Even you could hire a videographer as part of an MPG probably. I don't know if it's ever been done before, but I think it would fit. Those are things you can consider. So if you were trying to remember, your plan is November 2018. So MPGs are usually you get them in January. So you want to try to do the math here. You'd probably want to think about applying for an MPG 2 or 3 years from now to do your plan update.
Do you folks get the notifications of those grants or?
Yes, we know when they come out. If you're on our newsletter, we usually post it out on our newsletter, and we will help towns write the applications as well.
Yeah, wrote the last one with NRPC.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. It's,
Yeah, it's a pretty simple application and it's 10% match, so it's not terrible. And it's a pretty simple reporting. It's a state grant, so it's not super complicated. I know you guys are getting a Brigham Academy VCDP grant right now, and that's a federal HUD grant, much more complicated.
Is there someone from Northwest that's kind of specifically assigned to Bakersfield, or?
We don't have people assigned by town. It's more project area. So Greta Brunswick and I are the ones who usually do most municipal planning grants and land use planning. That would include town plans generally, but it sort of depends on project area for us. Yeah, you could apply for in fall of 2024. You get it January 2025. Roughly or so if you receive the grant. And that would give you the better part of, and the grant is 18 months. So it would give you a good time period to update your plan. This year particularly, I think the MPGs are going to be delayed, but that should be fixed after this year. It was a typo in the enabling legislation that they're trying to fix. An unfortunate typo for municipal planning grants. Typically, we have 4 or 5 apply in a region and 2 to 3 get them. This year, they've added more funding, and we're hopeful that will continue for future years as well. So they are competitive grants.
and for the group here, the other thing that we often do is tailor our municipal plan to a lot of the goals established in the regional plan. And the regional plan is being worked on now and will be published next year. So that'd be 2023. And how often is that? Is that 5 years that's changed?
I believe that's also an innate.
So it's 8 years
Yeah.
too. So we will want to read that so that we can see what kinds of goals they have, because a lot of them are really valuable for us. There'll be things on housing, energy, climate, and equity. And I think those are things that are, you mentioned housing is one that we're missing. But certainly I think climate to some degree and certainly equity are a couple of areas where we definitely want to focus.
Yeah, equity is something that's not specifically in the state planning goals right now, but I would not be surprised if by the time that you're doing your town plan update, it is in the state planning goals.
Yeah.
Because it's becoming an increasing focus of the state. They just passed a new, for example, environmental justice lawmaking. So it's certainly something that's becoming an increasing focus area, while not currently a requirement for a plan.
Yeah, and so every year new objectives and legislation comes out. So
Yes.
we're talking about now, but in the next 3 years, we could have many more incentives or
Mhm.
areas of
Yes.
interest.
Yes, and one thing you will see is definitely the new regional energy plan will also come out, and with that, new standards for your municipal energy plans that we expect to see will be. And that does actually, within the energy plan, that will include a required equity component.
Yeah, I really like the thought about specific scenic resources to protect.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, we have a number of those that I think we would like to protect from some of the energy projects that could have an adverse impact there. So any kind of guidance on how to incorporate that into a town plan would be useful. For example, photographs you would think would be useful to show what it is we're trying to protect.
Yeah, you can use photographs, you can use either in your plan, or if sometimes it's better as an appendix reference to a list with even specific, from the intersection of this road to that road, or these parcel lots or something like that, to specify it out. And I think photographs can also be great to show, and then have some sort of justification about why these areas are scenic or fragile resources that deserve protection.
Mm.
Anything else on the town plan? I've got a bit more to go through.
So one thing that has consistently been an issue for us is actually in the bylaws, not necessarily in the town plan, but it might be something that we address there.
Next to these bylaws.
Yeah. Is what's called a fixed area allocation.
Mhm.
And this is a specific 2-acre lot that it can be severed out of another property regardless of what the zoning for that district requires. So, for example, we have 10 and 25-acre zoning, and somebody could carve out a 2-acre fixed area allocation, and typically it's for a relative. And while that is a useful thing, it also would be, I think, valuable to have a better sense of the legal doctrine behind it, whether it's
A bit of a loophole. A lot of times, apply for that.
Certainly something that if you're concerned about the legality, you as the town or we as the RPC can put in a question to the LCT, who has lawyers on staff that can answer technical assistance questions to their members. Certainly pose it to them. I may email back and forth a little
Right,
bit to get you an answer on that from the legality perspective.
We've asked other Northwest people, and no, it's pretty uncommon.
Yeah, I've not heard of it before.
yeah, we kind of like to do away with it
Mhm.
because it is uncommon, but we don't want to, I think it would have to be something that we would want to have a hearing on
Mhm.
during
Yeah.
the bylaw revision process.
Yeah, there are other ways that you could, for example, you could allow in certain districts, those large districts, 2 principal structures, if those structures are single family homes, for example. Or some municipalities even choose to define a duplex in such a way that 2 separate structures on 1 lot would be a duplex.
Mm,
So there are things you could do like that that would remove that exception, but maintain the ability to have that second
mm,
lot, or you could define your ADU in such a way that would make sense. So there are things you could do there if you're concerned about that specific structure, but not about, it depends on whether you're concerned about the development or the specific way that the development is happening.
yeah, I think that it's often been really just a sense of fairness where some people don't have some sort of application that meets what the fixed area allocation allows.
Yeah.
For example, they don't have a child who is looking to build a house on their property.
Yeah.
But then there's a neighbor that does have a child and does set off those 2 acres, and it just seems unfair. I think the other thing that is really important to me, and this actually came up in a meeting 2 meetings ago, is what are the bases and the actual boundaries of the zoning districts? Because the zoning districts have this somewhat amorphous coloring
Yeah.
that doesn't always follow property lines. And it would seem inappropriate to have one property that's in two different zones. And we happen to actually have a number of them that are situated around our village district, which creates some concerns among the property owners.
Yeah, I'd have to look into your specific, so some municipalities have, it certainly can happen that you have a parcel in two different zoning districts. Some municipalities have specific rules about, set out in their bylaws about how zoning bylaws are applied. If a parcel is in multiple zoning districts, there's some percentage based, or say the stricter applies, or it depends on the municipality. There's different options there. Some municipalities also have language in their bylaws that says something like, where it's close to a parcel line, the district will be construed to run along a parcel line or natural boundary, things like that. So there's language that you can add there that clarifies what should happen in that situation, or what should happen if there's an amorphous line or parcel into
Yeah.
zoning districts.
Right. Yeah. And then we also have another weird circumstance, and this would be mostly basis as opposed to arbitrary nature of it, where the properties on the north side of the road are conservation at 25 acres minimum. And then the properties on the south side of the road are rural and 10-acre development. And it doesn't make any sense. And I don't know if there's a historic record of these, or is it only in the town where that?
There, I could ask Amy about how that far back we have notices of
Yeah,
towns, because we do get notices. I'm just not sure how far back
right.
that was decided and how far back we have records of, but I can ask.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a very concrete example of my own. I have a property and it has within it what's called the aquifer protection zone.
Yes.
And that clearly means I can't have new development
Yeah.
there. But the boundary of that does not match my property line,
Mhm.
which makes it feel like, okay, does that mean that I can put a structure in that little part of it, or does it cover all of my property, or what? And I'd like, we make the people that come here get a surveyor
Mhm.
to lay out the property lines, but are the property lines are really well defined
Yeah.
in deeds,
Mhm.
with
Yes.
pins and other landmarks.
Yeah.
But don't feel the same way with our district overlays, that they are defined that well.
Yeah, and many might be the official zoning map that should be in the office is usually the final arbiter of whether something's in or not. And often that is associated with, we have a GIS layer that maps that out, that you can map onto your parcel.
Mm.
And I've seen applicants in other towns do that. We send them the GIS layer. Some towns also have it like written out with more specificity in their zoning bylaw, but if you have that reference to the GIS mapping, that usually helps, but it doesn't help you in the situation if you don't have specific standards for what you do if a parcel's in two
Yeah.
districts.
Well, I don't think we have any wording in there. Linda is the one that's kind of brought this to our attention. Linda McCullough. She's for properties divided by the line. And I don't think we can go to the bylaws and say, oh, well, yeah, half your properties in high density residential, half is in village district. Which half are you developing? Yeah. I think, yeah, the bylaw.
Yes, I don't believe I'd want to look in state statute to see if there's any, sometimes there's bounds in state statute of what you can say, but I don't believe there's any, but I'd only double check. But yeah, it would be the municipality's responsibility to put that in their zoning bylaw. For example, I think it was Georgia, but I could be wrong on the town there that has a rule that says if over 50% is in one zoning district and the building is physically located in that zoning district area, then that applies, for example. I think so. I don't want to misquote their zoning bylaw though. But there's standards that you can choose to set up to clarify that situation. I think it's good practice to do so, so you're keeping again, consistent standard for everyone.
Yeah, and then I guess the last thing would be the normal things that we always see in the town plan and the bylaws, which are the data tables, charts that show where the town is going, you know, growth or lack of. And I think one of the things that is particularly going in a direction nowhere is public transportation. This town is not at all served by public transportation. It seems the route goes through Enosburg to Highgate down, which makes a lot of sense because you can hit Richford and Montgomery. And this corridor down from Enosburg over through Fairfield kind of gets missed. And I think with the aging community and with goals of trying to improve access here, that would be the next thing to think about.
That you can include in your plan. It is, I will say, very difficult usually to convince GMT to run a new bus route. But there are steps you can do before then, especially if, for example, you have a really active carpool group.
Right.
That's one of their deciding factors. If you can show that there's interest.
Right.
So there are intervening steps that you can take to try to like move you towards that goal.
Great.
Great. And then talk the town plan and zoning bylaw. Are there other sort of non-regulatory implementations? I know the Brigham Academy project is one that's going on. I'm not sure how much the planning commission is involved with that.
Yeah, actually, it used to be that we knew more about it. Now we hardly know anything, and that's too bad.
Yeah.
I feel like that the planning commission might be included in some of this, but I guess that's just another reason. I guess if I really wanted to know about it, I'd come to the select board meetings.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, Kathy LeBoy at our office is working on a project with the VCDP planning grant. I believe it's for community space and senior housing. I actually just got the contract for that. So that's definitely ongoing. And I'm sure if you'd be interested, Kathy could probably email a quick update for you guys at the planning commission as well about where they're at.
Yeah, if she could do that, that would be
Yeah.
great. I think we'd all be very. It doesn't seem to make sense if someone in town asks us, so what's happening there that the planning commission doesn't have?
Yeah.
You always feel stupid.
Yeah, I think Kathy could probably send you an email with some updates that you can have at your next meeting.
Right.
Is there anything else on the non-regulatory side that's going on right now?
Yeah, in fact, actually, I wanted to mention that the folks that are involved in that would like to come and talk to us. So sure they can reach out to me, but they're and then that way they could find out when we would be.
Yeah, what's that? What's their focus basically? The store over here? Is that?
Our focus is on the close to the back of the community center or some form of building that will once again idea behind it is that, the idea behind it is that it's funded through fundraising and donation. So it's a nonprofit. It's pretty much community support. We did the surveys to try to find out from the community what they would want. We really did.
I contribute.
Good, thank you. Well, I kind of, I was here kind of running for select board and pushing the go collective. So, we are looking at this potential, looked at launch across the street from Charlie's. We're trying to find out the gentleman who bought the old church. We actually want to go talk to the fire department about so right now, where we stand, it's, try to find out what we can do. What, so what is going on. The second, that's why I said, take that business across the street. It's a lot of fun.
Great. Thanks, John. I think it should fit into town planning. It's, you know, I think it draws a lot of people here. We have a lot of bicyclists that used to stop there to get refreshments as they rode from Canada to New York or wherever. South of us, it's South Big.
It kind of goes through like corner, right?
Very
Bakersfield, but
barely, yeah.
not
If it's really
near.
Fairfield, it does Fairfield well, but
Yeah. Yeah, you guys aren't directly.
yeah. Right. Well, it's designed to connect to community businesses too, so people could get some supplies or stop and have a meal. That could work out well for you folks, but
That's a goal with the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail expanding, because that's what we did with the Missisquoi Valley Rail Trail, is connect the local businesses to the trail. But I know you guys are in a unique position where you probably have to build a spur trail or something
Right.
to get people up here.
yeah.
Great. And then just an overview of what we're doing at the RPC, some new things that we have ongoing, which Bill, you know about, but is the Working Communities Challenge Housing Initiative. So that will be doing a region-wide housing assessment that we're hoping to have, I believe, this fall. So that will be something interesting to look out for, looking at housing prices and affordability throughout the region. And then they'll be working on trying to really think of at the system level, all of the different factors that prevent housing, affordable housing from being available in the state, workforce housing, and what they can do to try to change some of those factors. Then RPC board representation, Bill, I believe it's just you right now.
Actually, no.
You have another.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, Linda McCall has joined
Great.
the Northwest Regional Planning Commission. So she took a vacancy that was that way for probably 5 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. We
Yeah.
love to see vacant seats filled up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and another thing we're doing that's sort of new is we're serving as the clean water service provider for a couple of the watersheds in the area, with the goal of implementing the state's plan to reduce phosphorus in Lake Champlain. And that involves projects throughout the region because the watersheds are all connected to the Lake Champlain watershed. And I'm not exactly sure which watershed Bakersfield's in, because that's not my area of expertise, but
We're definitely Missisquoi.
yeah,
We could even be Lamoille, but
Yeah.
Lamoille's a little stretch.
yeah. ongoing work there and projects there that are, the idea is projects beyond the regulatory requirement projects to try to address problem areas where, you know, there's a lot of phosphorus runoff. I think those are the big sort of new things that are happening at the RPC. And then we have our standard programs, transportation. One exciting thing with TPI is that we just received additional money from the state specifically for bicycle and pedestrian planning. So that's exciting for the region. We've got brownfields redevelopment, land use planning, community development, all of our standard programming as well. And oh, my last thing is is there any training opportunities that you feel you need?
Well, I think that training is always useful. We just had the training with Catherine on open meeting law,
Yes.
and we could even do that remotely here at a regular Monday night meeting. You could ask her if I would be allowed to give that. She has the presentation and I could give it, or if she prefers, she could have either time here to do it or have someone else.
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, I can ask her.
Yeah. And then,
Bill, can I just
Yeah.
ask, if we do that, is it possible for other entities to come and get that same training? And I'm thinking specifically of the library board because
hmm,
they're always
yeah,
right.
I think it would be great actually if we were able to get all of the town
School board as well.
Yeah,
I think that
to
would be
come
great.
together for a Zoom call and do the open meeting law, because I think we can get into so much trouble if we don't, and it's really easy to stay in compliance, and it makes so much sense. It's a pretty quick training,
Yeah.
less than 20 minutes. Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. But on the topic of open meeting law, if you do that, make sure that you warn it for each of the boards.
Right. Yeah, that would be complicated as having lots of boards, but
Yes. Yeah.
still, it would be useful to try to do it in one
Yeah.
swoop if that's possible.
Yeah. It's definitely possible to do multi-boards to make sure they each have an agenda.
Yeah, and then Catherine gave one here one time. I don't know if you were here, where Ken was in here, and it was a little bit more broad than just open meeting law. I think it was about the responsibilities of committees and the towns. And it might have even involved Enosburg coming here too. I don't know if she'll remember that,
Yeah.
or I might even be mistaken, and it might have been
Yeah.
open meeting.
We do have our essentials training, which is like a really broad
That might have been what it
overview
was.
of planning and board responsibilities. We hold it usually twice a year. We used to move it around this region a little bit. We've recently been doing it as a remote training just to try to hit the whole region at once.
Right, right, right.
But if there was a need to bring it to a community, we could try to see if we can figure that out as well. And we have our latest one too. It's also up on our YouTube now. So that's an option.
Yeah, that's-
Yeah, we have a YouTube page now, which I'm excited about.
It's a good way to get things done.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Anything else you'd like to share with the RPC?
Thank you, folks. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And
Thank you for letting me take up some of your time.
yeah,
Asbestos lines in Eden. Are those around for that?
I don't know for sure. I would assume so. I would assume so, but I'm not sure. I could ask Greta manages our brownfields program. I could ask her. That's outside of our region, but she would probably know what. the
I wouldn't be
status-
surprised if that's not a super fun site.
That might, yeah, that might be a super fun site.
Those are huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Yeah, I can ask Greta. She might know more about the status of them and how they're trying to manage it or not, as the case may be.
Yeah, they do try. It's difficult. They've
Yeah.
had a long history of doing everything in the world with asbestos that you could imagine.
Yes, yeah. Certainly me. Great,
All right, great. Thank you again.
yes,
Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome. And yeah, it is. It's always nice to have this special weather up here. I was in San Antonio, Texas 2 weeks ago, and boy, it was 105 every day. And oh yeah, yeah. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the minutes, and I've given everybody a copy of them, and I sent them out the night that they were generated, or actually that we had the meeting. Take care. Any action on the May 2nd, 2022 minutes?
I hope we accept them.
Is there a second to the motion?
Yeah, I'll second.
And any further discussion? I heard that they did not have damage to the tank.
That makes sense. 'cause
No,
they're doing-
They're doing it in
they're
Enosburg.
doing- Yeah. I saw that, so.
Yeah, so that was not official, but it was fire department, which you would hope would have some,
Yeah, I was just interested if that was.
yeah, and it kind of makes sense given the amount of time that the project took, because it usually takes more, but I don't know a lot about those. Yeah, there was another one, kind of wish there was more awareness of it. Sure. All right, if there's no other further discussion on the minutes, all in favor of approving the May 2nd, 2022 minutes, say aye. Aye, so it's 4-0. All right, zoning administrator, Brenda, do you have anything to report today? You do not have to if you're feeling under the weather.
Thank you. No, it was more like I just got home from Syracuse, 3 days down there. I just wanted to mention that and thank Tammy for helping me develop that quote. And I will tell you that the adjacent landowner was a little more than irate with me, and I expect him to be pretty contentious because the agreement that he had, they didn't say, was that he was going to pick up the cost of this.
Which property are you referring to?
Mr. Vincent.
I'm sorry. Okay, so,
And my belief when I talked to Mr. Vincent was that he had agreed to pick up the price on that and did so with either the survey or part of it. And when I talked to Hobie Gates's fiance, who may have not gotten the entire story correctly, I never got to talk to Mr. Gates.
well, he's here now if you wanted to talk to him.
Well, I didn't know what the agreement was with the Vincents with regard to who was paying for what, but I know that that was part of the discussion I had with Mr. Vincent.
Yeah, from what I understand, the surveying and the fee for the boundary line adjustment wasn't the issue. It's essentially the issue of the cost for postage and whatever else is necessary for the notification of 18 abutters. So I
Gotcha.
think, yeah, so until that's resolved, I think that question remains unanswered. And I think where we left it tonight was that they were going to look into whether they might be able to reduce the number of abutters by focusing on the one parcel that is actually where the boundary line adjustment is occurring, not the entire farm, but just the parcel that is deeded closest to that boundary line adjustment. So
Yeah, I may have stepped out of the room for a moment when you're when you got,
Okay.
that's,
That's all right.
that's good. And certainly Tammy has as much information as I do about that because she gave me a few hours of help developing the quote.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Thanks, Brenda.
And now we have the ninth item, which is the next meeting is actually, it shouldn't say scheduled for June 20th. It should be July 4th. And we need to come up with a different date. Are there any, I do like having it when we're not conflicting with the select board.
That would be the 18th then, is open for you folks.
So does anyone have any conflict for July 18th? I think I am good that day. I think I may go to Washington DC. Oh, no, the 18th. Actually, no, I am not here. You could hold the meeting without me. Otherwise, I'd have to ask if we could do it another night. I mean, it doesn't have to always be Mondays. We could, but that whole week I'll be gone. And most of the week.
Brenda, do you know of anything coming up that next month?
Other than the discussion that went through tonight, that was the only work that I had in front of me.
So
Was-
what about other nights of the week of the 4th, like the 6th, 7th? That's Wednesday and Thursday of that week. So we just changed the day, not the week.
I do like the 6th. I can participate that Wednesday.
Fine with me.
All right, well, why don't we move it to July 6th then? And then I could be here. Is that everyone, you're good with that, Tammy? Great. And John's on the phone in the other room, unfortunately. I assume he'll be able to help us with the setup here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so John will be here. I'll write that down. All right, any, actually, if it's not on the agenda, we really can't.
We'll be back to.
Did you, yeah, we should give you the option. Did you have something you wanted to share with your coming back? Yeah,
Come on up.
yeah, please. We'll just consider this a continuation of your earlier meeting.
Okay, what I would
Is that
like,
the little green light on?
yes.
Good.
What I would like is, we would like to have a an appointment set up with the selectmen so we could appeal this. And we were told that you have to set up a date for the appeal with the select board.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Never heard of that, but do you want to appeal it to like the zoning board of adjustment or right to the select board?
We're going right to the
I
select
think-
board.
I think you could just go, you get on their agenda and
Well, they said I was told that you have to make the appointment.
So I'm glad to accompany you at the next select board meeting that we can get on. And that way,
Well,
that should clear the way for them to hear it.
they, excuse me, I was told that it doesn't even have to be on a night of the select board meeting. You could request a meeting so we could all be there. It doesn't have to be on that particular night. It could be any other night. Whether it's on that night, that's fine, and we don't care, but
So Tammy, can you figure out what the next time? What are the dates? Okay, I can't be
I
there
mean,
for that.
you want one of us to be there, or do you just want us to tell the select board that you're coming?
Or just pull the deed and see what.
Well, we're gonna look into that, but, you know,
That's.
we've, you know, I'm sorry, but, you know, I've been here all my life. And we feel that what we're being charged and things like that for this service that we're supposed to be getting is outrageous, okay? You know, it's just, it should be pretty cut and dry where this line is adjusted. Bylaws, you know, that's why we're going to appeal it with the select board about having to pay all this. Because all it is just like you saw there, is just a line adjustment. There's no buying of land, selling of land. It's swapping acreage for acreage, or foot for foot is what it is, more or less. So
I think we all sympathize with you on that, and and what we've kind of come down to is what the bylaws say. So it's, it is sort of out of our hands, and I think we're happy to send you to the planning, select board and seal
So
it. you know?
that's what we want to do, is we want to go to the select board. You know, we will look into our situation with our deeds. But we want to go to the select board and we want to appeal it to them and take it from there.
So
Monday.
Tammy happens to be,
But it would be a good idea, and that would give you a little more of that parcel, and if that parcel only has 4 butters.
Josh, I mean, he's relative, isn't he?
He's gonna abstain anyway.
You'll have to abstain. Yeah.
Because he's one of the abutters, okay. And Terry. I can put you on the agenda. Hope.
Okay, because, yeah, because Josh borders the land.
So is Terry Gates a relative?
Next.
An ex-relative, but I don't know if she has to abstain because she's an ex, she may. But there still will be the quorum with 3 of us, being Lance lawyer, Brenda Churchill, who's also the zoning administrator, and myself. And it really is, Josh is actually inconsequential because he can't vote on it anyhow. He's got an interest in everything else into the decision-making process. Brenda, am I incorrect with that?
No, that's correct. And I may have to recuse myself as well because I'm the zoning administrator.
But I think in that scenario, it's a different hat. I don't think you're related, and I don't think you have anything personal, like personal connection to it. I think you should be able to vote. It's just a different aspect of it. Otherwise, we don't have any quorum, and the select board can't vote for this one way or another,
And it goes to the zoning board of adjustment, I believe, next.
which is you, right?
No? No, it is not.
I'm sorry, right, there was a board. All right. I think it could come through and, we can at least hear what you have to say. And, try our best to help you where we can.
I would say pull that parcel to get the boundary.
Yeah,
and
I'll
if
have
you're Only
to,
acting on one parcel.
no, it wouldn't. I mean, there's still gonna be some people that are gonna be,
It'll be a butter.
but what I don't understand is why would I have to be notified Okay, because I'm on the boundary of it.
You're one of the applicants, right? I mean,
Huh?
you're one of the applicants too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the reason
I don't really understand.
The
why
reason
you-
that you're notified is that you see in writing what all of your butters are getting in writing. And that way you know the exact language of whatever it was that was said to them. And, yeah, I'm,
It's
you know,
so
it,
confusing. Because it's his property that's being bordered.
Right.
My property is
his.
being bordered by my property.
Exactly, exactly.
I don't know
So
why you would
he's,
need to
he's in a
notify, but-
butter of this particular parcel.
Right.
That's being.
and I don't think it means that if a person is twice on the list because they meet the definition, that you send them two mailings. It makes common sense just to send one, but
Right.
the applicant needs one.
Well, he's the applicant, but
Right.
then he's the abutter.
What I'm saying is you don't send them one as an abutter, you send them one as the applicant, and that takes care of it.
Okay,
You know, he's getting it both as an abutter and as an applicant because it's coming to him. That's the easy one to answer, I think. I think it's hopefully you can make it so that it's a smaller property that is actually
right.
in the decision-making process here.
You mean the bylaws wording? The bylaw wording, yes,
It's-
yes. And hopefully. and
It's
by
called
Monday,
public
we should
notice
get that deed pulled.
requirements.
So we see how big that part, the actual parcel is. It's being boundary adjusted.
So I'm not going to give interpretations of the law. This is law. You want me to, we'll hire a lawyer. We can have lawyers involved in this. I'm trying to give you
Lots more.
what my interpretation of this is. And I'm only reading it. And, you know, I'm not going to try to interpret it beyond.
That's how we read it. as well.
And I'm not going to condone things like that. As a means to meet the law when it doesn't appear to meet the law.
No, all I want is just to have a meeting with the select board.
Yeah, and I think we've made those
I think
arrangements.
that's- Yep, you're on the agenda when it gets posted this Thursday.
And,
Monday?
It's Monday, this coming Monday.
So a week from tonight.
Yep, 7:00.
okay. On my phone, what day is that? Trying to think. Yeah, I will try to talk to him and I will get hold of Lindsay and let him know. And, we'll take it from there. We'll see if we can get, we'll have to go to the town hall and get all of the deeds pulled. Now, who would Kathy would pull those?
Kathy can help, or I can help, because I'll be here Thursday morning.
Um, Yeah, I'll have to see if I can,
What that original parcel that surrounds that property was, or who had that originally?
But that's in all three of your names? Well, how's that? How? Right. Yeah, I don't know. how
farm
to-
now, the farm is in Lindsay Gates, Barb Gates, and myself.
have to- And how many deeds do you think that encompasses?
I don't know for sure, because I own the land that's across the brook. Okay,
But that's not part of the farm.
it isn't now, it was,
Got it.
but that had its own deed. The land that Brenda Gagne is on had its own deed.
Is that in her name now?
Yeah, that's in her name,
So she would be in a butter.
right?
Might ask Michael Jarvis or whoever did the survey, because they might have had to look that up.
Yeah, how many deeds that the big
When he was
parcel
trying to
is.
Find the property
Property
lines,
lines.
probably, he might have had to look that up, so he might be a person to talk to.
Okay.
He'll tell you which book it's in, how much.
Right. Because I know the piece of land that's behind Clement and Charmaine's, that meadow that's behind there, that has its own deed. I mean, because when my grandparents bought the farm, they bought the big barn, which had a couple, then he bought the Wands barn, which had pieces, and then he bought pieces of land as he grew.
Mhm,
So they all had their own deeds, but it's considered the farm.
mhm.
Never got consolidated into one.
No,
Yeah, I think you should try to find that out.
Yeah, definitely.
okay,
And Kathy probably would be a great one. I mean, I can help too, but Kathy knows there's stuff in the hard drive from living in town the whole life that I wouldn't know,
Yeah.
you know?
okay, I'll see if I'll try to get up here. Of course, I work from 6 o'clock in the morning till,
And you know what? I can, because I'm here on Thursday morning, but you can even call Kathy and ask her to start pulling stuff and I'll help when I come back.
and I'll call Michael and ask him if he's got anything that's pulled.
Surveyor kind of has to look
Yeah,
at that.
like the
Well, if we-
parcel that actual boundary line adjustment is, that deed,
Mhm.
that one deed. If he knows what that one deed is, we can pull that in about 2 seconds.
Okay. All right, thank you for your time.
Sure enough.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn from Ken and a second from Tammy.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
I.
Aye. And it passes 4-0. We are adjourned until July 6th.
Wow, where's the summer going?
I don't know, but it's going way too fast.
Yeah, the corn will be knee high.